Here is a brief history of the origin of our nursing pins. A nursing pin is usually made of metal, such as gold or silver, which is worn by nurses to identify the nursing school from which they were graduated. They are traditionally presented to the new graduate upon completion of that nursing school's curriculum, and usually before the nurse actually participates in the graduation ceremony of their prospective school. They are given in what is commonly called a pinning ceremony, and usually are held in a church, but not always. The presentation of the pin is a symbolic gesture and a welcome to the nursing profession. The origin of the nursing profession dates back to medieval times, where combat-ready knights, when not protecting their king or queen with sword and shield, would spend their time tending the needs of the poor, sick, and affirmed, all part of their sworn duties to the crown. From this, the Knights Hospitaller began, using the Maltese cross as their insignia. This organization is still active to this date as the Knights of Malta. Also during this time, the Order of St. Lazarus, who were the original founders of the modern-day hospital as we know it now, began providing a place of care for communicable diseases such as leprosy, syphilis, and other chronic skin diseases. The Renaissance period found a new use of these symbols to be used as families' coat of arms. It was during this time that people who provided specific medical services and had advanced training in healthcare, as we'd call it now, were given these symbols or insignias so that they could be recognized as educated, trained, and experienced in a specific area of care. The pins being shown in this video are examples of how these symbols are represented today. From the beginning of the Maltese cross, they have evolved into pins more specific for the nursing schools or organizations where students are educated. But they still are representative of the same meaning. You are in the presence of someone with advanced training in healthcare, an elite group with a skill set present in less than 1% of the world's population. Many nursing pins have the image of an oil lamp. These are in the period style lighting during Florence Nightingale's service in the Ukraine during the Crimean War. Florence was known as the Lady with the Lamp after an article in a London newspaper from a reporter entrenched during that war. He wrote, "She is a ministering angel without any exaggeration in these hospitals. And as her slender form slides quietly along each corridor, every poor fellow's face softens with gratitude at the sight of her. When all the medical officers have retired for the night and silence and darkness have settled down upon the miles of prostrate sick, she may be observed alone, with a little lamp in her hand, making her solitary rounds." This report was later penned as poetry by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in the 1857 poem Santa Filomena. It reads, "Lo, in that house of misery, a lady with a lamp I see, pass through the glimmering gloom and flit from room to room." Some pins have images of red crosses on them, which is a nod to earlier times when caregivers might not be dressed in a uniform that identified them as trained providers, yet was a symbol designating them as such. Another symbol that might be represented on a nursing pin is the wand of Acephalus. In Greek mythology, he's the son of Apollo and is the god of healing and medicine. It's a single rod with one intertwined snake. The Greek god Hermes, or the Roman god Mercury, also carried a staff, but it was called caduceus. It was a winged rod with two intertwined stakes. The United States military mistakenly used this symbol, thinking it was the wand of Acephalus, to represent their medical corps. Mythology actually states that the snakes became intertwined on the staff of Hermes while he was breaking up a fight between them, and the staff itself represents commerce and negotiation. In Roman mythology, the messenger of the gods, Mercury, also carried a caduceus. In his hands, it represented a guide to the dead and the protector of merchants, shepherds, gamblers, liars, and thieves. The pinning ceremony, as we know it today, dates back to the 1860s when Florence Nightingale was awarded the Red Cross of St. George in London for her service during the Crimean War. At that time, Florence was operating the Nightingale Training School at St. Thomas Hospital for nurses in London. She, in turn, awarded her brightest students a similar pin upon completion of their studies, with her first graduates finishing and beginning work on May 16, 1865. By 1916, the practice of pinning all new grads became the norm as a way to encourage all her students to excel. That practice continues to this day at her school, now called the Florence Nightingale School of Nursing and Midwifery, part of King's College in London, and at nursing schools around the world. As part of the pinning ceremony, it is common practice for new nurses to recite the Florence Nightingale Pledge. Currently, it's gone through numerous changes to cover all the nuances present-day nurses face, but much as there are thousands of laws reframing the Ten Commandments, her core pledge still rings true today. I solemnly pledge myself before God and in the presence of this assembly to pass my life in purity and to practice my profession faithfully. I shall abstain from whatever is deleterious and mischievous, and shall not take or knowingly administer any harmful drug. I shall do all in my power to maintain and elevate the standard of my profession, and will hold in confidence all personal matters committed to my keeping and all family affairs coming to my knowledge in the practice of my calling. I shall be loyal to my work and devoted towards the welfare of those committed to my care. For those of you watching that are also registered nurses, I thank you for your continued service. For those of you just finishing nursing school, welcome. And for those of you considering a career as a registered nurse, it is one of the most challenging and rewarding careers you will ever have. But remember, there's no greater calling than that of helping your fellow man. Thank you, and God bless. And I leave you with an actual recording of Florence Nightingale from 1890.